In the vast sea of decks that exist in the Edison format, there's one deck that in particular I think deserves a lot more credit than it currently gets. That deck is Six Samurai. In case you know absolutely nothing about the niche retro format from the hit children's card game Yu-Gi-Oh!, Edison format is an alternative retro format that uses cards that were exclusively available at the Shonen Jump Championship from April 24th to 25th of 2010 in Edison, New Jersey. For this Iceberg, I've compiled entries all about this underexplored gem to show off some of the lesser known info about this archetype, and hopefully put more eyes on one of my favorite decks in the entire format. This may just be the most hyper-specific Iceberg of all time. Without any further ado, let's jump straight into the Edison Six Samurai Iceberg. Gateway of the Six. At the top of the iceberg, we have Gateway of the Six. This continuous spell card that came out in Stardust Overdrive is probably the only reason to even look at this deck in Edison format. Its effect is as follows. Each time a Six Samurai monsters is normal or special summoned, place 2 Bushido counters on this card. You can remove Bushido counters from your field to activate these effects. 2 counters. Target 1 Six Samurai or Shien effect monster. That target gains 500 attack until the end of this turn. 4 counters. Add 1 Six Samurai monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. 6 counters. Target 1 Shien effect monster in your graveyard, special summon that target. The second effect of this card is really what pushes this card over the edge, so much so it's limited to only 1 copy in the modern day TCG. Being able to search any Six Samurai from your deck or graveyard is incredibly powerful, but it becomes truly broken when you have 2 on the field at the same time. That means that every time you normal or special summon a Six Samurai monster, you get a free search. This kind of free resource looping is even more broken in a format like Edison, in which a lot of decks lack this kind of free searching. The only other deck that comes close is Blackwing, which has access to Black Whirlwind, a card that only works when you normal summon, and is limited to only 2 copies in Edison. Blackwings may have better monsters to take advantage of their continuous spell, but don't sleep on what Six Samurai can do when it has a full tank of gas. No Shien Synchro. Yet. Many players consider the Edison format to be the definitive Synchro era retro format. Taking place in the latter half of the 5Ds era meant that a lot of the most meta-defining decks revolved around the Synchro mechanic. In Edison format, almost every top deck with the exception of Frogs and Gladiator Beasts used the white extra deck monsters to some degree. Sadly, the last set to come out before SJC Edison was Absolute Power Force, meaning that Storm of Ragnarok is not legal in Edison. This is a damn shame, as this set is what catapulted Six Samurai from a middling low-tier strategy with relatively few eyes on it to a tier 1 deck. With this set, we got a bunch of new legendary Six Samurai cards. Included in these are Shinai and Mizuho, who can special summon themselves for free so long as the other is face up on the field, Kizan, who can special summon himself for free, Kageki, who let you special summon any level 4 or lower 6 Sam from your hand, Kagemusha, a level 2 tuner which finally gave the deck reliable extra deck access, and last but not least, Shien, a level 5 Synchro who had a once per turn effect to
Shien effect negates
spell and trap effects. And that's only mentioning the monsters, as we also got Shien Smoke Signal, which searches any level 3 or lower Six Samurai monster, as if this deck didn't have enough search power already. If these cards were legal in Edison, these guys would run an absolute train on the current meta without a doubt. Sadly though, we're relegated to playing this deck in its awkward teenage years, before these cards came out. The Stone 6. The Stone 6 are the first Six Samurai to be released in Strike of Neos on February 28, 2007 in the TCG. Releasing all as commons, we got Yuriza, who could attack directly, Yaichi, who could pop a set back row, Nisashi, who could attack twice, Kamon, who could pop a face-up back row, Iroh, who could destroy set monsters when he attacks, and Zanji, who can destroy whatever monster he battles at the end of the damage step. Now, if all of these effects sound pretty good to you, keep in mind you have to control another face-up Six Samurai monster to use any of these effects. With no way to special summon multiple Sams in a single turn, these effects are reliant on your monster sticking around for more than one turn. Luckily, the set also came out with Grandmaster of the Six Samurai, a 2100 body who can special summon himself as long as you control a face-up Six Samurai monster, though you can only control one of him. This means that if you see any 6 Sam and Grandmaster in your opening hand, the Stone 6 have their effects live, provided your opponent doesn't have any traps waiting to kill your Grandmaster. These 6 monsters, alongside Grandmaster, are what form the core monster lineup of most 6 Samurai decks in Edison format. With such a wide variety of effects and the ability to search any of them with Gateway, they make a really nice toolbox that makes you feel like you have the solution to any problem somewhere in your deck. Great Shogun Shien. Another piece of 6 Samurai support released with this set was a boss monster in the form of Great Shogun Shien. His effect is as follows. If you control 2 or more face-up 6 Samurai monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. Your opponent can only activate 1 spell or trap card each turn. If this card would be destroyed, you can destroy a face-up 6 Samurai monster you control instead. Being able to lock your opponent into only 1 spell or trap is incredibly nice, but to be honest, a lot of decks in Edison format can play through it pretty easily, and the steep requirement of having to have 2 face-up Samurai can make it a brick in a lot of hands. It also isn't searchable with Gateway, since it isn't a 6 Samurai monster by name. It can, however, have its attack boosted with Gateway, and be added back to your hand if you're willing to spend 6 Bushido counters on it. Funnily enough, this is a card that has actually gotten better with time. Back in 2023, a lot of Infernoble decks were experimenting with Great Shogun Shien as a part of their end board. As it turns out, limiting your opponent to 1 spell or trap in the combo fest that is modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a lot more powerful than it was back in 2010. Protecting each other. This entry refers to the effect most of the original 6 Samurai monsters had that allows you to destroy a different 6 Samurai monster when you're about to be destroyed. There are a few important rulings to note about this. First off, if your opponent activates a card that destroys multiple 6 Samurais at once, you aren't allowed to protect one Samurai with another that's also being destroyed. Another super random ruling is if Ring of Destruction, which is banned in Edison format, targets a 6 Samurai monster and you destroy a different 6 Samurai monster instead, 0 damage will be inflicted by a Ring of Destruction. Though as I said, Ring of Destruction is banned, this could apply to some other cards, though I can't think of any off the top of my head that are legal in Edison format. Lastly, if you control 2 6 Samurai monsters and one of them equipped with Legendary Ebon Steed would be destroyed, the effect of Legendary Ebon Steed must be used. You can't choose to destroy another 6 Samurai monster instead. No competitive 6 Samurai decks in Edison really use that card, but it's an interesting ruling nonetheless. 6 Sam Chaos Sorcerer. This could technically refer to 2 things. Firstly, there's Anishi, Shien's Chancellor. This card has the following effect. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 2 6 Samurai monsters from your graveyard. Once per turn, you can target 1 face-up monster to destroy that target. This card cannot attack the turn this effect is activated. Now, if you're familiar with Chaos Sorcerer, you'll know that this card was almost certainly modeled after it. Banishing 2 monsters from the graveyard to special summon, removing a monster from your opponent's field at the cost of not being able to attack. Yeah, this thing is basically Chaos Sorc with a traditional Japanese coat of paint. Unlike Chaos Sorcerer, however, this card is not a powerful staple card. 6 Samurais really lack a way to get monsters in their graveyard reliably outside of kinda just letting them die. This deck also doesn't have much space to run cards that would put cards in your graveyard, like Raiko, Armageddon Knight, or Dark Rever. As a result, Anishi sees pretty much no play. The other idea this entry could refer to is actually running Chaos Sorcerer in 6 Samurai. If you're willing to run 3 Zanji and 3 Iroh and you hate yourself, hey, why not? In Archetype, Pot of Greed. I'm sure even people who have never touched a Yu-Gi-Oh card in their entire lives know, Pot of Greed allows you to draw 2 cards. Now, what I'm sure people who have touched a Yu-Gi-Oh card in their life know is that Pot of Greed has been banned since 2005. Well, lucky for 6 Samurai, they have their very own spell card that lets them draw 2 cards. 6 Samurai United has the following effect. Each time a 6 Samurai monster is normal or special summoned, place 1 Bushido counter on this card, maximum 2. You can send this card to the graveyard, draw 1 card for each Bushido counter on this card. That means that if you can manage to summon just 2 6 Samurai monsters while this card is in your field, you get a free Pot of Greed. This card is incredibly strong when you draw alongside Grandmaster, as you can use the effect to draw 2 cards the same turn you activate it, which hopefully stops your opponent from destroying it before you can even use the effect. This card, as you may have noticed, also generates Bushido counters, meaning Gateway can use Bushido counters on United to search or boost attack. Overall, this is probably the second biggest reason to consider this deck in Edison format, as a reliable draw 2 spell is good regardless of what deck you're playing it in. Solidarity builds. One of the most common ways to build 6 Samurais in Edison is to use Solidarity to boost your monsters and play the deck as a beatdown deck. Solidarity is a card that boosts all your monsters by 800 attack so long as you have only one type of monster in your graveyard. That means a deck like 6 Samurai that plays pretty much only warriors for the most part can really benefit from a card like this. One of the biggest issues with this deck is the low attack of all your main deck monsters, so this approach can definitely remedy that. The only downside is, as mentioned previously, getting Sams to the graveyard isn't always an easy task, so this card might take a few turns to become live. Not to mention this deck is almost always on some number of Starlight Road, a card which will more likely than not put a dragon monster in your graveyard, permanently turning off your Solidarity. I feel like the community has definitely moved away from builds like this in favor of more control versions that run more defensive cards, since the deck can acquire so much card advantage and its offensive power is pretty low all things considered. That being said, this can be a fun option if you want to try to keep games short and beat your opponents down. Cards with 6 Samurai on them. Many archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh! Have monsters that appear in the art of other cards that aren't directly related to their archetype. For example, Samsara Lotus and Scar, Scout of the Dark World, both appear in the art for 1-for-1. While 6 Samurai has many examples that have been released after Edison format, to my knowledge there are only 2 in Edison format. First, we have Gozen Match, which depicts Anishi and Grandmaster having a 1v1 in front of Great Shogun Shien. Overall, a pretty metal art for a pretty lame Floodgate. Funnily enough, Gozen Match actually counters 6 Samurai incredibly well, given it only lets you control one attribute of monsters, and this deck plays pretty much every attribute under the sun. As a 6 Sam player, I never want to see this card flipped up against me, especially when I've already committed an attribute to the board. To make matters worse, the only card that could even deal with Gozen is Kamon, but he requires another face-up Samurai to pop it, and sadly the only other fire attribute 6 Samurai is Hand of the 6 Samurai. If only Kamon could have been an Earth. The other card I'm aware of that depicts a 6 Samurai is Swallow Flip, which features Iroh stealing Sasaki Kojiro's signature move, Tsubame Gaishi. This card is like pulling the rug but for special summons, and given this deck can have issues in the Gladiator Beast matchup, this card is actually a decent side deck option that has been seeing a decent amount of play recently. Unexplored Traps. For this Iceberg, I've had to leave out a lot of 6 Samurai cards just based on how much support this deck has. I mean, this deck has more support than Blackwings and Frogs, which are both high tier decks in this format. Unfortunately, a lot of 6 Samurai support just isn't that good. And by that, I mean straight cheeks. Like, look at some of this garbage. With that being said, there are some interesting cards here that could be decent, but maybe we just haven't seen the right build to exploit them. First up, we have Backs to the Wall. This card lets you pay life points until you have 100 left to special summon as many 6 Samurais with different names as possible from your graveyard. In any other deck, this card would be pretty decent, but alas, 6 Samurai still have that pesky issue of getting those names into the graveyard in the first place. Not to mention the fact if your opponent manages to weather the storm and top deck Sparks, you can kiss your measly 100 life points goodbye. There are also less extreme graveyard recursion cards, like Return of the 6 Samurai and Double-Edged Sword Technique, which let you summon 1 and 2 6 Samurais respectively, both of which destroy what they summon during the end phase, and the latter burning you for their combined attack points. Double-Edged Sword Technique has seen a bit of experimentation as a less extreme Backs to the Wall, but Return of the 6 Samurai hasn't really seen any play to my knowledge. With all these cards that use the graveyard, you'd think there would be a way to play the deck that takes advantage of all these cards, but sadly if there is one, it hasn't been found yet. The last trap I want to take a look at is Swift Strike Armor. This continuous trap lets you special summon any 6 Samurai you draw during the draw phase, which sounds actually pretty good, until you start to look at it for more than 5 seconds. Then you start to realize this deck already plays around 13 6 Samurai monsters to begin with, most of which are perfectly fine with normal summoning, as you probably only have around 1 or 2 monsters in your hand to begin with. And if you draw Grandmaster, congratulations, you summoned a monster you were probably already going to special summon this turn anyways. Yeah, this card is probably also pretty garbage, but hey, it's pretty underexplored. Keegan's build. On November 22nd, 2024, irreparable damage was done to the Six Samurai community as E3 Yu-Gi-Oh! Dropped a 2-hour video called "I asked the best players to help me break Six Samurai. This deck changes everything." All joking aside, this 2-hour video with a deck profile, 8-man tournament, and IRL gameplay would go on to gain 14,000 views, which is quite a lot for a deck profile, let alone for a niche deck like Six Samurai. His list, shown here, decided to borrow an approach from a similar deck, Gladiator Beasts. Douglas Tepper won RBET New York in September, a premier IRL tournament with stiff competition. At the time, Gladiator Beast was considered a playable, competent deck, but not at the same level as other Tier 1 decks. They could top a major here and there, but to actually go the distance, it wasn't thought possible, or at the very least likely. In comes Douglas Tepper with his build. The secret sauce? Guardian Iados of all cards. This 2500 attack point beatstick helps get over a lot of bigger monsters, bait traps that would hurt your Glads, and push for game, increasing the deck's kill pressure. The reason this card doesn't see more play is because in order to special summon it from your hand, you need to have 0 monsters in your graveyard. Luckily for Iados, Glads don't really go to the graveyard, and if they do, they can get moved out with a quest and Darius. Keegan decided to take this idea and implement it into Six Samurai. Gateway is able to add cards back from your graveyard, helping to keep Iados live, and that's not even mentioning the addition of 3 main deck to D-Fishers to help keep your graveyard clear and hurt your opponent's graveyard plays at the same time. Is this the secret sauce Six Samurai needed to finally top a major? Well, if it is, the sauce hasn't kicked in yet. There are a few downsides to a build like this. First of all, if you draw Iados too late in the game and have monsters in your graveyard, then congrats, you've just bricked. There are also a lot of scenarios in which the card you're searching off of Gateway is specific to the current situation you're in. Sometimes the card in your graveyard isn't the card you want to use your Bushido counters to add to your hand just to make a beatstick live. Then, there's the main deck Dimensional Fissure. This card is broken against a lot of meta decks, but a lot of meta decks can also play around it or have many main deck ways to get rid of it altogether. Dimensional Fissure can also end up working against you in many situations. You can kiss grabbing back that 1 common from your graveyard goodbye. And cycling your Grandmaster back after your opponent uses Torrential Tribute? Don't even think about it, that guy's in another dimension by now. Despite these drawbacks, the build is still incredibly heat, and has changed the way a lot of people view the deck. This video has also been the introduction into Six Samurai for a lot of players, so this build has quickly become one of the most popular. I think most Six Samurai players have all had a moment like, damn, should I just drink the Kool-Aid on this one and play Iados? The build is just that alluring. And shout out to E3 Yu-Gi-Oh! For shuffling this build and putting eyes on our little samurai pet deck. Yaichi Rulings. Being probably the best member of the Stone 6 for his ability to pop one of your opponent's set back row every turn, Yaichi has a few rulings that are important to note. The main ruling that comes up quite a bit is that if you use Yaichi's effect and target an opponent's set continuous trap card, let's say Royal Oppression, and your opponent chains that trap card, the card does not get destroyed. A lot of players don't know this and just send their card to the graveyard, which is a very nice feeling, especially when that card is something like Royal Decree. Another piece of text on Yaichi that a lot of people don't realize is, you must control a face-up 6 samurai monster with a different name to activate and resolve this effect. That means if I normal summon Yaichi, special summon Grandmaster, and call priority to pop my opponent's back row, they can use Bottomless Trap Hole on my Grandmaster and Yaichi doesn't get to pop the card. Grandmaster versus Royal Oppression. This is probably the biggest misconception about Six Samurai period. Let's say I summon Grandmaster, and my opponent chains Royal Oppression, pays 800 life points, and negates my summon, destroying Grandmaster. Grandmaster is still allowed to use his effect that says when he's destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can target a 6 samurai, including himself, in your graveyard and add it to your hand, letting him special summon himself again. The same goes for other cards like Solemn Judgment. As long as Grandmaster is destroyed while on the field, he can add himself back. With that being said, there are also people who take this ruling too far and expand it to their own royal oppression, saying that if your opponent uses your royal oppression, you can add back your Grandmaster. Sadly, this is not the case, as Grandmaster only comes back to your hand if it's your opponent's card that destroyed it, not yours. I remember watching a deck profile a while ago that asserts this, and I had to find out the hard way that, no, main decking royal oppression is not a good idea. 6 Samurai at SJC Edison. At the start of this video, I briefly mentioned the tournament that this entire retro format is centered around was SJC Edison, which took place in April of 2010. Well, believe it or not, there's actually a documented deck list from somebody who actually brought 6 Samurai to this tournament and did pretty decently with it. Money Smith brought a Solidarity build of this deck to the tournament, and even got an article by Konami written about his list. Here's what the article said. Money Smith piloted his 6 Samurai deck to a better finish than any other Samurai duelist in the tournament. His strategy? Swarm the field with Samurais and protect his aggression with his 3 main deck copies of Starlight Road. Smith made some deck choices that were previously unheard of in 6 Samurai decks, like the exclusion of Great Shogun Shien from his deck. But given his finishing 9-3 record in the tournament, these deck choices may become integrated into basic 6 Samurai strategy. Take a look at his deck list. Smith is running 3 copies each for the 6 Samurai Zanji, the 6 Samurai Iroh, the 6 Samurai Yaichi, and Hand of the 6 Samurai. These monsters have the power to destroy monsters by attacking them, destroy monsters without attacking them, and take down set cards. He also runs 1 copy of the 6 Samurai Kamon, which he can use to destroy a face-up spell or trap card. With the warrior returning alive in his deck, he can call any of these samurais from his graveyard when he needs them. I forgot to put Reinforcement of the Army in my deck, Smith told me, but I should be playing it. With it, Smith would be able to call out the samurai he needs from his deck. Smith's deck depends on summoning Grandmaster of the 6 Samurai to swarm the field with warriors. He uses Gateway of the 6 to search his deck for the Grandmaster, just to make sure he gets it into his hand. Smith also uses Solidarity to boost his monster's attack and create an overwhelming field for his opponents to deal with. By excluding Great Shogun Shien from his deck, Smith limited the number of hands he would draw that include cards he's unable to play. He knows that the aggression enabled by Grandmaster and the other 6 Samurais is more than enough to beat his opponent, so adding a card that requires him to have 2 Samurais on the field to summon it seemed unnecessary. Money Smith's deck also takes full advantage of Starlight Road. He packs a full 3 copies in his deck to protect his swarms of monsters, as well as the several trap cards and continuous spell cards his deck plays. Since Starlight Road can special summon a 2500 attack monster to the field for Smith to attack with, it helps Smith build up the game-ending swarms his deck depends on to win. Smith also uses Backs to the Wall, which lets him create a game-ending swarm in one shot. Money Smith's Samurai deck is a new take on an old theme that may help to shape the way more 6 Samurai decks are built in the future. The age of this deck shows a little bit, with slower cards like the Warrior returning alive, Backs to the Wall, and even niche battle spells like Shrink being a clear sign of the times. But shout out to Money Smith for showing that 6 Sams could hang all the way back in 2010 where it started. Iroh vs set monsters. Another ruling that a lot of players simply don't understand. Iroh's effect says, at the start of the damage step, if this card attacked a face-down defense position monster, destroy that monster. Now, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a needlessly complicated game, you might not realize that this effect activates in Substep 1, aka the start of the damage step, before the set monster is revealed, which is before damage calculation. This means that Iroh can prevent cards like Raikou and Hamster from flipping and using their powerful effects to ruin your day. A lot of players confuse Iroh's effect to be the same as Eren, the Lightsworn Monk's effect, as it's well known that when she attacks a face-down card, the card is flipped. Her effect, however, states if this card attacks a defense position monster before damage calculation, shuffle that monster into the deck, meaning that card does get a chance to activate its flip effect. Priority on United. This is actually something I thought you could do for the longest time. I mean, hey, United does have an ignition effect, right? Can't you just summon a monster, get the second Bushido counter, and priority activate its effect and get your free in-archetype Pot of Greed before your opponent can hit it with a Mystical Space Typhoon? Even Chris LaRock, the best 6 Samurai player in Edison, thought this was a thing you could do as mentioned in his second place Chicago monthly deck profile. Sadly, however, this is too good to be true. Ignition effects are by definition a category of monster effect. Only these types of effects alongside quick effects are able to be used with priority. While there is no official name for the kind of effects Six Samurai United has, it's often referred to as an ignition-like effect, which, while functioning almost exactly the same as a regular ignition effect, cannot be used with priority. This game, man. This game. Hobby League Zanji. Also known as the prettiest card in Edison format, Hobby League Zanji released in Hobby League 5. The Hobby League is a competition where several players compete for modest prizes. There's a prize each month for the duelist with the best record. Hobby Leagues are a fun, casual place to practice your dueling skills and try out the new decks and strategies. For attending Hobby League competitions, players receive an exclusive parallel ultra rare foil card. The card available changes on a monthly basis. The player with the best record each month wins a Yu-Gi-Oh! Table mat. One other lucky player is chosen at random to win a mat as well. Hobby Leagues, for the most part, use traditional format. While it's now defunct, for a time in November of 2007, you could earn yourself a gorgeous parallel rare, the Six Samurai Zanji. While a lot of modern Six Samurai decks opt not to play this guy, it's a damn shame, as this card is absolutely gorgeous for the low load price of around $5. Hand of the Six Samurai Ultimate Rare. One of the best cards in Six Samurai, Hand of the Six Samurai, was released in the Duelist Genesis as a secret rare. Or was it? According to the official Yu-Gi-Oh! Database, it says this card also came in an Ultimate Rare. If that's the case, surely there would be some pictures of it. Not one. I have searched far and wide and have yet to find a single photo of an Ultimate Rare Hand of the Six Samurai in any language or region. If anyone has any info on this, whether the database is just unreliable or wrong in this instance, or if there's a Mongolian exclusive Ultimate Rare Hand of the Six Samurai, please let me know in the comments. Perfect Circle Format Top. Shout out to Black Spirit in the Edison format Discord server for bringing this to my attention. Six Samurai may have not topped any major tournaments in Edison, but in Perfect Circle format, another retro format from 2007, Mike Glowacki placed highly at SJC San Mateo. Admittedly, he didn't seem to make top 16, but he was at least 2-0 for what it's worth. The deck ran some interesting names like Nisashi, 3 Cyber Dragons, Triple Dimensional Wall, and 3 Cunning of the Six Samurai. The deck also took advantage of reasoning not being limited to 1 to help bring out more Six Samurai names or get lucky and hit a great Shogun Chien. He also opts to play 2 of Iroh, Nisashi, Yaichi, and Zanji, since the deck is more focused on being a toolbox of different unique monsters that are good in their own unique situations. Shout out to Mike for innovating this deck and going against the grain all the way back in 2007. Six Sam FTK. In 2010, the World Championship of Yu-Gi-Oh! Took place in Long Beach, California from the 14th to the 15th of August. While most competitors were on Blackwings, which is seen as the most dominant deck of the era, Galileo de Abaldia would shake the world with his Frog FTK deck, a deck that would go down in infamy as the time of first turn kill strategy actually dominated the world stage. The deck would use Ronin Toden, a card conveniently released directly after Edison, to repeatedly act as tribute fodder for Mass Driver, a card that lets you tribute any monster you control to inflict 400 life points to your opponent. Luckily, Edison format doesn't have to deal with such FTKs. Or does it? Introducing the Six Samurai FTK. All you need is 2 Gateway of the Six Samurai, or alternatively 1 Gateway and 2 United, Grandmaster, any Six Samurai normal summon, and Mass Driver. Simply summon the Grandmaster, tribute him off for Mass Driver, and add him back from the graveyard with Gateway. Rinse and repeat. Now, this FTK is nowhere near as consistent as Frog FTK, but if anyone who's watching this video wants to take a stab at trying to make this FTK work, be my guest, because if this FTK was actually consistent, it might become a tier 0 deck. Polar Attributes. This one is just a cool piece of trivia. According to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Wiki, each Six Samurai has a different attribute, and those with polar attributes have opposite effects. Yaichi's opposite Kamon, Nisashi is Yariza, and Iroh's is Zanji. Yaichi destroys a face-down spell or trap card, and Kamon destroys a face-up spell or trap card. Nisashi can attack twice, and potentially destroy multiple monsters, while Yariza bypasses monsters entirely to attack directly. Iroh's effect can take down monsters before they become a threat. Zanji's effect can take an already active threat. Before reading this, I had never even thought of it like that, but after hearing it, it makes a ton of sense. Searchable Gateway. In Yu-Gi-Oh!, spell cards are some of the strongest types of cards in the game. This is why cards like Imperial Order have been banned in modern formats, while Skill Drain and Royal Decree are legal. Shutting off your opponent's monster effects and trap effects is one thing, but preventing your opponent from using spells is often a death sentence. For that reason, very few cards in the TCG can search spell cards. One of the only examples of a card that searches a spell card is Terraforming, that can search a very specific type of spell that in Edison doesn't have any especially broken targets. But what if there were a way to search spell cards as broken as Gateway directly from your deck? Well, there are 3 ways you can search it like that. The first way is Gold Sark, which will get you the Gateway you want, but you have to wait 2 turns for it. If you have to wait 2 turns for a Gateway, your hand probably isn't doing anything that's going to keep you in the game for those 2 turns anyways. This is a pretty bad way of searching for a Gateway, but oh boy, there's worse. Ancient Gear Drill is a card that lets you set a spell card directly from your deck provided you control an Ancient Gear monster. Outside of the fact 6 Samurais are not in fact Ancient Gears, Ancient Gear Drill also makes you discard a card for a cost just to activate it, which 6 Sam doesn't really enjoy doing. To make matters even worse, you can't activate the spell the turn you set it, meaning your opponent has ample time to pop it before you can even use it. Now these are the 2 most obvious and direct examples, but what if I told you a secret method to search Gateway was developed by Keegan and myself in the 6 Samurai channel of the Edison Discord? A simple 2-card combo that gets Gateway directly to your hand and gives you a 3000 attack point beat stick to boot. These 2 cards are Magical Hats and Compulsory Evacuation Device. In case you aren't familiar with this Yugi staple, Magical Hat's effect reads as follows. During your opponent's battle phase, choose 2 spell or trap cards from your deck and 1 monster in your main monster zone. Special summon them as normal monsters, attack 0, defense 0, in face down defense position, set the chosen monster if it is face up, and shuffle them on the field. The 2 cards chosen from your deck are destroyed at the end of the battle phase and cannot remain on the field except during this battle phase. With this effect, you want to set 2 cards, Gear Town and Gateway of the Six. Now that you have Gateway set as a monster on your field, you can actually use Compulsory Evacuation Device to bounce it back to your hand. Boom, you have now added Gateway directly from your deck to your hand, and once the battle phase ends, that Gear Town is going to get destroyed and use its effect to summon Ancient Gear Gajiltron Dragon from your deck. Now at first glance, playing Magical Hats, Gear Town, Compulsory, and Gear Dragon might sound like you're playing a lot of, well, let's say just mid cards to search for Gateway. But I disagree. Compulsory on its own can be a useful piece of removal and help you loop your monsters to get more counters on Gateway. If you don't have Compulsory to go with your Magical Hats, you can always just set 2 Gear Town and get 2, count them, 2 Ancient Gear Gajiltron Dragons. And if you're sad to draw Gear Town on its own with no field spell to pop it, you can always use Yaichi or Kamon to pop Gear Town and get you a free dragon. Now, I've done a lot of testing with this build on Dueling Book, and what I can say is this. The build of the deck does in fact work, and I personally prefer it to the Iado's version of the deck. If you want to give this kind of 6 Samurai deck a try, I left my build of this version of the deck in the description. The Forgotten Samurai. We all know of the Stone Six, their Grandmaster, and their Shogun, but there is one member of the 6 Samurai available in Edison which has been forgotten by time. Some believe this card to be such an unfair card that modern Edison duelists simply opt not to play it to cultivate a healthier meta. Others believe the card is so rare that many duelists simply don't have access to it and can only dream of being able to find one to add to their deck. This card is Chamberlain of the 6 Samurai. With a jaw-dropping 2000 defense that would make even Sirocco blush, this level 3 normal monster might just be one of the most powerful cards ever published by Konami. His flavor text reads, "The 6 samurai are supported from the shadows by this silent and mysterious warrior. His past is unknown to them, but his countless scars are proof of his experience." To this day, this card's past is still lost to time, leaving us to wonder, just how did he get his countless scars? How does he support the 6 samurais? And just how strong is this 6 samurai deck in Edison when you add in this mysterious warrior into your deck? We may truly never know. Or he's just Kageki after he retired, I don't know. The 7th Samurai. This is the final entry on the Iceberg, and with it we have one of the biggest mysteries in the entire 6 Samurai Edison Iceberg. Who is the 7th Samurai? The 7th Samurai in this instance is the theoretical 7th monster to help push 6 samurai into meta relevance, who as of yet has not revealed themselves. If we look towards Michael Barbosa's 6 samurai list for guidance, we see that he believed the 7th samurai to be Thunder King Ryo, despite his conflicting synergies with Gateway and reinforcement of the army. According to Keegan, he found in testing that Guardian Iatos is the 7th samurai, providing the deck increased kill power and synergizing well with Dimensional Fissure. This build has seen a modest amount of success, but has yet to truly bring the deck out of the darkness. In my testing, Ancient Girgagiltron Dragon is the 7th samurai, a beatstick that can topple over meta threats and gives a way to search Gateway, but the build remains relatively unexplored. I've even tried adding in Krebons as the 7th samurai, giving the deck the ability to buy time until you can reach the cards you need, and enabling the deck to make synchro plays. But as of yet, the 7th samurai remains elusive. This begs the question, what will signify the 7th samurai? What will truly tell us we found the one? Well, in the Edison format Discord server, many decks have their own dedicated channels split into 3 groups. We have major wins from 2024 to present. The decks featured here are decks that have won a major and is mainly comprised of the top tier meta decks. Beneath that, you have major tops from 2024 to present. This is comprised of slightly less meta decks that have still proven themselves by topping a major. And beneath that lies the unproven decks. The decks that have a strategy that works to some extent, but have not topped a major in the modern era. Who will be the 7th samurai, you ask? Go be the one to find it. Go out and compete with 6 samurai. Be the one to top with this deck. There have been many decks in Edison once thought to be incapable of topping a major, who have found the right pilot to get them to a top in the modern era. Is 6 samurai up next? Well, that's all up to you. Find that secret sauce, find the build that works, and finally, prove this deck has what it takes to top a major. This has been the 6 Samurai Edison Iceberg, and thanks for watching.